Hello, today marks 1 year of the surgery that I underwent last year on the 7th of August. So today is the 6th of August 2018. I had the surgery on the 7th of August 2017 for the complete or called the radical removal of my prostate, which had been diagnosed as having a form of cancer which could potentially spread if not directly and aggressively removed. I won't go into the details of that in terms of the Gleason scores and other MRI tests, etc. I just wanted to discuss today mainly on one issue, and I will probably make another video 1 year from now, if time permits, on another issue which is related to the recovery. So the first thing to note is that there was a very significant problem I had with the urination after the surgery, which turned out to be a blockage of the urethra caused by the catheter. The catheter caused this stricture in my urethra, which then led to significant problems and led to 2 further surgeries to fix that issue. Now, fortunately for me, that issue did get fixed after about 3 or 4 months from the original prostate removal, and that was one part of the story. The second part of the issue for me that was most concerning was incontinence, and I think everyone who undergoes this surgery experiences incontinence, and I will talk about that today and some other issues maybe a year from now. So I had what is called total incontinence. That means I could not retain a single drop of urine in my bladder after the surgery. And this was very annoying because I also had problems, as I said, of the urethral stricture at the same time, which caused me a lot of pain and other issues. But the main thing was that it was complete leakage all the time. And this went on for about 6 weeks. And one could not even start any exercises till 6 weeks. So this went on, as I said, for roughly 6 weeks before I could do anything to minimize this particular process. In the meanwhile, there was some natural recovery, I suppose, and so incontinence slightly reduced in the meanwhile from around 1 liter a day lost to around probably 800 milliliters. Now, one thing I want to emphasize, I did keep a record, and I strongly encourage anyone who undergoes this surgery to keep a detailed record of the weight of the pads using a weighing machine, a kitchen scales, which can then keep very good, can tell you exactly what's going on. So now, by the way, this is all meant only for those who have undergone surgery. This is not a general video by any means, very specific to a particular audience. Now, 6 weeks after the surgery, I did start some Kegel exercises. The physio I went to initially was, in my view, not very competent, and she was not able to explain to me how this whole thing works, about the process by which I might recover, apart from the fact that nobody knows the prognosis of these things at that stage. But she was not very competent, I thought, and so I went to 2 other physios, one after the other. Actually, I saw 3 other physios, and also read extraordinarily widely as far as I could find any book or anything written on the subject. So I won't go into this. I will summarize essentially by saying I discovered that it is actually not the strengthening only of the pelvic floor that's important. Definitely the Kegels does the bit of that, and it is something that I did for a while. But I discovered something very important, and I want to summarize it quickly here, that you're essentially retraining your muscles, the entire pelvic and abdominal muscles, to perform a function that they earlier did not perform. Now we lose one of the, the sphincters or whatever, the regulators of urine in this process of surgery. In fact, we lose 1.5 of them effectively. So the rest of the muscles have to take on certain roles, and the rest of the nerves as well have to take on certain roles. The best way to think of it is that you're practicing tennis. When you start playing tennis, you really don't know how to hit a ball at all. But after some time, with a lot of practice and a lot of training, you actually the muscles start and nerves get involved, and they get a bit of a sense of how to do this thing. And some people become great and some people become just pretty ordinary. But the fact is that everyone improves and is therefore able to hit the ball a little bit. That training of the muscles and nerves, I realize, is the most critical part. And it is not the nerves involved and the muscles involved in this exercise are way more than the pelvic floor. And very soon I came across an article by a former, he's a physiotherapist, but not in this particular area. He had prostate surgery about 15 years ago, and then he experienced incontinence for nearly 4 years. Finally, he discovered through trial and error an exercise regime which completely cured his incontinence, which demonstrated two things. First of all, this is not a 1 year issue, which many people say that after 1 year, whatever you achieve is your final outcome. No, it's not. You can keep improving till the amount of time you put the effort. Second, it's not to do with just the pelvic floor. The exercise regime that Peter Dornan describes, and I've got it on my website as well, but also you can search for Peter Dornan and get his book and other things, is a much more wide-ranging exercise regime. And it focuses on a large number of muscles in the pelvic area and abdominal area. When I started this exercise, this particular regime, so I started by I made a deduction that everything gets worse so I go in a hilly area for a walk. And in that process, I found that when I'm going downhill, I had excessive, leakage. So I realized that that's when actually the whole body puts more weight on the muscles. And that's a really good way to train the muscles. So you overburden them, and then when you're doing pelvic floor exercises while you're walking downhill, it might actually improve things. And this relates with what Peter Dornan had done and written about. I concluded, therefore, that running downhill would perhaps be the most suitable exercise and the shortest and fastest way to get this sorted out, the problem. And I started running downhill or jogging downhill, a very short distance, not necessarily long distance, but also holding onto the pelvic muscles as tight as possible. There was massive leakage, of course. It continued for a while, but within a week, I saw a dramatic drop-off in the incontinence. And that was phenomenal, because that was not simply a random event. So this happened at around 12 weeks or around 3 months. So I'd started at this Kegel business at around 1.5 months. By 3 months, I was now doing this mild jogging. And I had the surgeries, I remember other surgeries, so I couldn't do it all the time, but I was doing it when I was recovered from those surgeries. And that mild jogging downhill had an astonishing impact on the whole exercise, the whole thing. In the meanwhile, let me also add that at the gym, I introduced a number of other exercises that I was not earlier performing, mainly the bicycling. So I was not doing bicycling, but I realized from readings that somebody had benefited a lot from the bicycle. So standing bicycle was the only option initially, because otherwise it's going to damage your muscles inside after the surgery. So you only stand and do it on the stationary bike. But there also was this what you put your hand down and the planks, they are called. So a bit of that, but initially, as I said, it is very mild. I did not even go down that path because of the recovery time being at least 3 months from the surgery. And I had, remember, 2 other surgeries, so I had to do very slowly. But by the 3rd month, when I was starting to do some really serious work, and by the 4th month, it was really serious, good work in the gym and also in the park running downhill, I basically gave up the Kegel exercises. I used to do a fair bit of Kegel exercises on a daily basis, but I just gave it up. And I realized that that's only one part of the story. And now what I'm doing is I'm actually building the entire area. It's very important and very efficient to do that, because I then don't have to worry about this thing which takes me a conscious effort to keep a track of it, how many times I've done, etc., etc. I don't bother. All I do is when I'm going down the hill, I hold up my pelvic floor and I run downhill. And now, after about 6 to 8 months of doing this, I stopped even bothering to hold my pelvic floor. It doesn't matter. So I think the drop-off was so significant immediately after this particular regime of exercises. And remember, I soon dropped off the Kegel exercises. So I've been doing this now for nearly more than 6 months without any Kegel exercises consciously at, let's say, during my day-to-day life. I don't do that. And my argument is that I want my muscles to be fully trained to a new function. And I don't want to keep on strengthening only one particular muscle. It's a wrong idea for for whatever in the literature that you should strengthen your pelvic floor. No, it's not a good idea. You should actually retrain the entire set of muscles. So when you're playing tennis, it doesn't mean that you have a barbell and you start strengthening your biceps or something of the sort. You actually have to train the entire upper body and the entire hips and your legs in order to be able to hit the ball systematically and so on. So it's about retraining and identifying with your muscles in your mind how the body must now do a particular thing. In this case, improving the incontinence. Now, over the past, from 1 liter, it came down quite dramatically to 135, 140 ml in just about less than 4 months, 5 months. It dropped quite significantly. And since then, it has continued, the drop-off has continued, but it has slightly plateaued over the last month and a half at around 10 milliliters. On a good day, it would be around 5 ml. On a bad day where I'm doing a lot of exercise, or maybe I'm having a cough, or I'm having some sudden motion, all kind of things, reasons can happen, a slight tilt of the body, etc., and then I can have a small tiny leakage. So that adds up to maybe more than 10 on a bad day. On a good day, it's 5. But even though it's slightly plateaued, I've had this experience in the past where it plateaus for a few weeks, but then it starts dropping off once again. I'm very confident that this will further continue to drop. And remember, the key message here is I do not do Kegel exercises. I do not recommend Kegel exercises since they are actually only fixing one muscle. The whole goal here is to fix a large number of muscles and a large number of nerves. In this process, I've also become much more fit than I was earlier. I've also managed to get extra, side effects, which I'm now fixing, such as a pinched nerve because of the, running downhill, a bit of extra pain on the knees, but all that is very minor and it can be fixed. But I guess the main message here was that all that uncomfortable exercise of running downhill with leakage, etc., has now paid up dividends. I'm almost, totally without any such leakage, conscious leakage most of the time. At the end of the day, I might measure it's 5 to 10 liters. Milliliters, it's a very small quantity compared to where it was when I started. And I'm hoping it will come down to practically zero, if not, even if it's not 100% cured, it's quite comfortable. I'm not at all fussed about this issue at all anymore. So I guess that was my main talk for today, and I will also talk about some other things maybe after 1 year. All right, thank you.